Tonight, a Toronto man is arrested for two violent sexual assaults dating back almost a decade.
He's been charged with numerous offenses, including multiple counts of kidnapping and sexual assault with a weapon.
Forensic science leading police to the 32-year-old believed to be responsible for the two sexual assaults in Richmond Hill and Mississauga. Plus,
I think it just means that life is slowly returning to normal.
Planning a trip, it's about to get easier. The Canadian government will no longer require travelers to provide a negative COVID test to enter the country beginning next month. And air raid sirens and bombardments continuing today across Ukraine, but the country expressing optimism in its talks with Russia. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Police have arrested a Toronto man for two violent sexual assaults dating back almost a decade. They say forensic science played a big role in helping them to identify the suspect, adding that they believe there may be more victims. Our Greg Ross has more and a warning. The story does contain details that some viewers may find disturbing.
Okay, good morning.
A nearly decade-long joint investigation between York and Peel Regional Police Forces has finally led to an arrest. 32-year-old Jae-Hyun Cho of Toronto, who police say also goes by David, has been arrested for two violent sexual assaults, one in Mississauga, the other in Richmond Hill.
He's been charged with numerous offenses, including multiple counts of kidnapping and sexual assault with a weapon.
Police say the first assault happened in September of 2013. A 47-year-old woman was assaulted late at night after getting off a bus on Hurontario Street in Mississauga. Her attacker was wearing a mask, and police say he forced her into a nearby wooded area.
Once the female was dragged in the forested area, the offender then violently sexually assaulted her. The offender threatened to kill her and her family if she reported the incident to police.
A little over a year later, in November of 2014, a 17-year-old girl was attacked after getting off a bus here on Yonge Street at Canyon Hill Avenue in Richmond Hill. Police say her attacker was wearing a mask and threatened her with a knife.
The offender demanded money from the victim and violently assaulted her. He dragged her approximately 50 meters into a field with tall grass. Once in that field, he tied the victim up and viciously sexually assaulted her.
The Center for Forensic Sciences was able to link the two cases using DNA collected from both locations, but at that point, they were not able to identify the attacker.
In 2019, genealogy testing was also conducted that showed the offender was most likely of a Korean origin.
While that helped to narrow the search for a suspect, it would be another 2 years before police received their first big break in the case.
In the fall of 2021, we received information from the Center of Forensic Sciences in regards to a forensic link from an incident unrelated to these two attacks.
Police did not provide any details about the unrelated case or how it's forensically related to the two sexual assaults.
We interviewed witnesses in an unrelated case outside of our jurisdiction, and the information from some of those interviews assisted in us identifying the accused.
Police believe there may be other victims, and they're urging anyone with information about the suspect or other assaults to come forward. Cho has a court appearance scheduled for tomorrow. Greg Ross, CBC News, Richmond Hill.
A 23-year-old man has died after an industrial accident in Oshawa this morning. Durham police say an arborist was killed on Waverley Road near Adelaide Avenue and Stevenson Road. It happened at about 8:45 this morning. The man was reported injured by a wood chipper. The Ministry of Labour is now investigating. And an elderly pedestrian is in critical condition after a hit and run in Thorncliffe Park. It happened around 9 tonight near Thorncliffe Park Drive and Overley Boulevard. Police say a woman in her 70s was transported to hospital with life-threatening injuries. Anyone with information is asked to contact investigators. And two Ontario students, including a 19-year-old from Mississauga, were critically injured in a fiery head-on collision in West Texas that killed 9 people. It happened last night when a pickup truck crossed the center line of a 2-lane road in Andrews County near the border with New Mexico. The police say the truck crashed into a van carrying members of the University of the Southwest men's and women's golf teams. 6 students and a coach were killed in the crash, along with the driver and a passenger in the pickup. 19-year-old Dayton Price from Mississauga was critically injured, along with 20-year-old Hayden Underhill from Amherstville, Ontario. The university says it has notified family members. To pandemic news now, and Canada is set to further relax COVID-19 travel testing requirements. Now, right now, travelers coming into the country still need to provide a negative antigen test. Beginning next month, that rule will be scrapped. Dahlia Ashry has more.
Some uplifting news for fully vaccinated travelers. As of April 1st, proof of a negative COVID-19 test will not be required to enter Canada. The federal government is expected to make the announcement tomorrow.
We are already fully vaccinated, so I don't think we need that.
Peter Papalidis is taking off to study French in Paris for 3 weeks and won't be needing a test when he returns.
As long as it's based on good science and good evidence, I'm fine with it.
For this family, it means that next time they visit their daughters in the UK, it will be a lot cheaper to come back.
$200 each, yes, for each of us. So it's a lot. It adds up quickly.
Infectious disease expert Dr. Chagla thinks it's the right move.
This type of testing is expensive, doesn't really achieve much of a purpose, and really discourages travel.
For border towns like Windsor and Niagara Falls that rely heavily on tourists, the change can't come soon enough.
All of this is crucial because government has told these businesses in these towns they can be open, but a big chunk of their foot traffic hasn't been there because of the friction caused by the cost of testing. And so this is huge for that.
But Beth Potter from the Tourism Association of Canada says it will take some time for the industry to rebound.
Tourism is back full-fledged. It's not back at capacity yet. We don't think we're going to be back to 2019 levels until the end of 2025.
Fully vaccinated people will no longer require a negative COVID-19 test upon arrival, but you still might be selected for a random test, and you have to have your ArriveCan app. If you're planning on booking a vacation, getting away anytime soon, make sure to check with the destination that you're traveling to what vaccine requirements are needed and what PCR or COVID-19 tests are required to get to the destination before you book your flight. Dahlia Ashry, CBC News, Toronto.
It doesn't look like the pandemic has dampened Toronto's tech boom. Companies continue to expand here, including Walmart, the American mega retailer, announcing it's creating a global tech hub right here in our city. Ali Chiasson has more.
Silicon Valley North is alive and well.
We keep having successes. I think of 1Password, a Toronto-based company that raised $700 million recently. Huge raise, and they're expanding their team in a massive way. Shopify's headquarters is essentially now in Toronto. Companies like Sentry out of California, Toronto's probably their second biggest presence, and they continue to hire here.
For many good reasons, including the Toronto Tech Talent Pool.
Starting from our graduates, I think Ontario, last time I looked, pumps out about 55,000 STEM graduates a year. That's really been a calling card for the economy.
It's one of the reasons Walmart is expanding its global technology division here.
This is what is really exciting about Toronto for us.
Toronto will be home of one of its largest tech hubs.
We intend to do a lot of the e-commerce development and some supply chain development as well out of the Toronto hub.
The hiring process of dozens of software developers and engineers begins now.
Canada and Toronto area especially are investing, in a big way in technology, want to keep the jobs in the Canadian soil. So I think it's a perfect synergy and a great opportunity for both Canada in general and for Walmart as well.
Okay, so you get the job here in Toronto, but what about living here?
Toronto's still a great place to live, even though it's quite an unaffordable place to live.
That's something the city's chief technology officer has to discuss when courting companies to move here. But that's getting a little easier now that we're emerging from the pandemic.
So the conversation will be, you can probably walk 2 days from home, in a hybrid mode. So now you maybe can afford to live a little bit further out where the cost of living is not as expensive compared to the times where you had to be commuting 5 days a week. So I think that's now given more flexibility to have those conversations when you're trying to recruit people to come into the city.
That's really interesting. So the tech boom booms on. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Gas prices are continuing to skyrocket, and starting today, Uber riders are being required to pay extra for it. Customers are now being charged 50 cents extra on every ride as a temporary fuel surcharge to help offset high prices at the pumps. As for Uber Eats, each food order will tack on the equivalent of a 35-cent surcharge. 100% of the surcharge goes directly to drivers and delivery people. The fee will be in place for at least the next 60 days. And as gas prices spike, more automakers are setting their sights on going green. Honda Canada is putting more than $1 billion into making hybrid vehicles with help from the provincial and federal governments. But some say we also need to focus on getting more people to drive the cars. Lisa Shink reports.
These days, the price of gas has a lot of people questioning whether driving is worth it.
I'm barely, surviving.
But is it enough to spark their interest in going electric?
Give me $10,000 towards the car and put in a lot more charging stations.
If I had a lot more money and I didn't live somewhere where it's -20 half the year.
Have one on order. Can't wait to get it. COVID delays, war in the Ukraine, wiring harnesses are hard to get.
More people may eventually have to consider the option, at least a hybrid.
As we build a cleaner future, the automotive sector is a key partner in powering the way forward.
The Prime Minister in Alliston, Ontario, announcing $131 million as part of Honda's $1.4 billion investment in retooling its plant there to make hybrid cars. Premier Doug Ford is chipping in the same amount.
This means the cars of the future will be built right here by Ontario workers using Ontario resources.
This follows other automakers that have plans to start making electric vehicles, including Ford, which will retool its Oakville plant. Fiat Chrysler is converting its Windsor assembly plant too. But the head of EV not-for-profit Plug and Drive says there still needs to be more incentive for people to buy them.
It's a great job strategy, a great, sort of business development strategy. I think we have to remember it's not necessarily an EV adoption strategy because those vehicles don't necessarily get bought by Ontarians.
Several years ago, the Ontario government scrapped an EV rebate, calling it a credit for millionaires. When asked whether he'd bring it back, Ford said this.
Since we've been in office, electric vehicles have tripled in sales. So I guess that was a good decision.
Sure, sales may have gone up, but Ontario still lags way behind other provinces like BC and Quebec that take advantage of a federal rebate but also have a provincial one. Lisa Shink, CBC News, Toronto.
Meteorologist Nick Cernkovich joins us now with a first look at the forecast. Nick, many hoping for warmer temperatures, and some got it today, depending on where they were.
Well, Calda, as they say, it's all about location, location, location. Let me show you the satellite imagery from earlier today, and we'll explain why. This is a look at the visible satellite imagery, so basically a picture of the clouds. And you'll notice that the clouds kind of hugged the shorelines of Lake Ontario. So everybody pretty close to the lake, still in cloud cover, seeing temperatures around 2 degrees. Sunshine, though, outside of that in some of the higher elevations, and as a result, warmer temperatures. And that's why you saw temperatures across the board like this: 18 in Windsor, 17 in London, 8 in Hamilton, and then a pair of 2s in Toronto and Oshawa, where it was still cloudy. So unfortunately, it was all about location. Now tonight, more in the way of fog patches developing. Tomorrow, though, with the wind shift, we'll see those dissipate by the noon hour. Sunshine and temperatures tomorrow up to 17 degrees, mainly sunny skies by the later afternoon. Follows 3 degrees tonight. Watch for fog again to develop. We'll have your full 5-day forecast coming up in just a bit.
Thanks so much, Nick. The union representing 16,000 faculty at Ontario colleges says bargaining is scheduled for tomorrow that may avert a strike set for Friday. Now, the Ontario Public Service Employees Union invited the colleges back to the table. The College Employer Council, which bargains on behalf of the province's 24 publicly funded colleges, agreed to meet with no preconditions. The two sides will attempt to reach a negotiated settlement before the strike deadline of 12:01 a.m. on Friday. Welcome back. Ukraine and Russia were in talks again today, with both sides projecting optimism about bringing the conflict to an end. But in the meantime, Russia is continuing its assault, attacking more civilian targets, including a theater in Mariupol where hundreds of people were sheltering. Chris Brown has more details for us and a warning: some of these scenes are difficult to watch.
In Chernihiv, people were reportedly queuing to buy bread. Accounts differ of whether they were hit by a Russian shell or machine gunned, but video of the aftermath shows lifeless bodies on the ground. For the Russian forces attacking Ukraine, killing large numbers of civilians is horrifically not uncommon. In Mariupol, where hundreds are already buried in mass graves, there may be a new atrocity. The city's main theater, which was serving as a bomb shelter, was hit by an enormous Russian bomb, says Ukraine's military. Hundreds were inside. It's not known the casualties. Amid such gruesomeness, it appears there has been progress towards a ceasefire. President Vladimir Zelensky said Ukraine wants a just peace with security guarantees. And Russia's foreign minister speculated that Ukrainian neutrality might be acceptable to Russia. But Ukraine wants all Russian troops out. Vladimir Putin is sounding uncompromising. He repeated his usual lie that Russia's military is not hitting civilian targets. With every new Russian attack comes an immense worry that the war cannot be allowed to destroy Ukraine's economy, especially farming. Fields are mined, roads are impassable. We visited the farm of Yaroslav Protselo, an egg and wheat farmer. Fuel for equipment is scarce, he said, diverted to military needs. So is animal feed and seed for crops. Ukraine exports vast amounts of wheat, corn, grains, and sunflower products. And Andrei Zhidakchek, who heads an agricultural cooperative, expects those will be interrupted. Up to 50% of farmers will not be able to process their crops this year, he said. Ukrainian farmers towing captured Russian tanks have become heroic figures, but Ukraine's government is asking for more to get their crops in the ground this spring to avoid economic collapse. Chris Brown, CBC News, Lviv, Ukraine.
The president of Ukraine gave a history-making address to the U.S. Congress today. Volodymyr Zelensky called for more weapons, more aid, and more sanctions against Russia and the imposition of a no-fly zone.
Remember Pearl Harbor, terrible morning of December 7, 1941, when your sky was black from the planes attacking you. Just remember it. Remember September the 11th. A terrible day in 2001 when evil tried to turn your cities, independent territories, in battlefields.
The U.S. and NATO have been unwilling to enforce a no-fly zone that would put them in direct conflict with Russia. A little later in the day, U.S. President Joe Biden pledged to provide Ukraine with drones and long-range anti-aircraft systems. 2 pediatric cancer patients from Ukraine and their families have arrived in Toronto to continue their treatment. A Sick Kids hospital in Toronto confirmed their arrivals late this afternoon. The hospital is asking for privacy for the families. And this is a live shot of the Toronto skyline completely shrouded in fog. Extremely foggy out there tonight and remaining this way overnight as temperatures begin to rise. Currently, though, it's 1 degree in the city. Let's go back to Nick now with a look at your full forecast. Nick, a lot of people, myself included, looking forward to tomorrow because, as you mentioned earlier, 17 degrees.
17 degrees in the forecast, Calda, for tomorrow. That comes, of course, on St. Paddy's Day. It's going to be a beautiful afternoon. Here's a look at your weather headlines. So fog patches developing again tonight. That's going to put a bit of a slow start to this warm-up tomorrow. But I expect with the wind shift, we're going to see the sunshine by the afternoon. That should bring temperatures up to that 17-degree mark. And we're looking at a few showers for Saturday, but still pretty warm weather heading right into the weekend. There's a look at the forecast. Now, again, looking at fog patches developing, especially around the Golden Horseshoe for tomorrow morning. As we move through the afternoon, you notice it dissipates. Part of this is a bit of a wind shift. Today we had an easterly breeze right along the lake, and that, of course, is bringing moisture and cooler weather in off of the lake. However, tomorrow, with a bit more of a southwesterly wind, we should see this dissipate. Sunny skies, or mainly sunny skies into the afternoon, and rapidly warming temperatures, the kind of stuff we saw in southwestern Ontario today. Now, as we move into Friday, cloud cover basically stretching across the region with another system that's pushing into the GTA. I don't think we're going to see much in the way of rain showers on Friday. If we do, it'll be sort of late day and more spotty in nature. It's really Friday overnight into Saturday that we're looking at rain and showers across the GTA. How much can you expect? By Saturday morning, upwards to about 10 to 15 millimeters of rain, about another 5 sort of Saturday morning onwards. So broadly speaking, we're looking at 10 to 20 millimeters expected through southern Ontario as we move through sort of Friday afternoon into Saturday afternoon. A few fog patches developing southwestern Ontario tonight, although not as widespread as we saw last night. The Golden Horseshoe, though, still looking at fog once more across the region. There are temperatures above the 0 mark. As we move through tomorrow, though, we're expecting that to dissipate, 17 degrees. Cloud cover for Friday and showers. Clears out by Sunday, but all days above the seasonal mark. Kelda.
I like that. Thanks so much, Nick. And finally tonight, Disney Plus has released its first trailer for the Miss Marvel miniseries. The lead star is Iman Vellani, who plays the first Muslim superhero.
Okay, so first off, I just want to say, I get it.
You get what?
High school.
Kamala. Another adventure shirt. Cute. She thinks I'm some kind of weirdo.
You are a weirdo. Boys. Excuse me?
Yeah.
You're kind of on my shirt.
Sorry.
The 19-year-old actor was born and raised in Markham. She plays the character Kamala Khan, an ordinary teenager from Jersey City who writes her own fan fiction and discovers she has some pretty cool powers. The 6-episode season will premiere exclusively on Disney Plus on June 8th. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.